Hello, everybody. I'm Sean Provencher. This is Jane Johnson, and we're the Briar Hill Group. Welcome to the July market report. Back to you, Jane. What's happening on the front lines?
All right, so we're at the beginning of August. It has been a very up and down year in terms of the markets overall, like the real markets across the world. And I suppose the biggest surprise to me this year when I was looking so far is how steady real estate has been in Victoria. We are really just back to normal, following the trends. We're in a balanced market. We're burning out some listings and coming down under 4,000, which is really nice. And we had an awesome July. What about you? What are you thinking?
The numbers are really encouraging. For the past month, I have been dreading this market report because I thought we were going to fall into a buyer's market. We finished with somewhere around a 10-year high for the amount of inventory that we finished at the end of June. And here we pop out the end of July. We've actually gone down in inventory despite it being the summer, which is usually not the fastest time of year for absorption. And chewed through about 200 of our units that were standing on the market. We finished up at like 3850 ish, and that's great. We are still alive. Things are
We're
moving, and we had a tremendous month for sales.
So I follow the weekly update that we get. I have a 7 day sort of rotating market analysis that goes on my dashboard. And I've been
Cool.
noticing that, yeah, that people have been either doing, either it's like the pending numbers and the price decreases have been very similar. So I would say that people are sharpening their pencil on the listing side and trying to get competitive. And I know for us, I'm focusing on getting our listings in kind of the top five to show a lot of value. And what's happening is we're actually getting what we're asking for now.
It's that split market we've been talking about all year, where you have properties that are overpriced that are just sitting on the market, and you have properties that are priced accurately and they're selling often. Like, still, we're seeing multiples, which is incredible considering the fact that, if we see 6 months of inventory on our market, that would technically put us in a buyer's market. And this month we finished up at 5.7. That's really, really close. Um, Okay, so one thing that stood out to me as I was digging through our stats package, I noticed that one of the metrics they track is the sell through ratio for new listings. So you have the total number of listings added in a month and the total number of sales. And for single family residential, it was about 50%. So we had roughly double the number of new listings as we did for sales in single family. And to me, that really reinforces what you're saying. We had 52% of them that sold last month. And I look at that and I'm like, man, if you price your property accurately, you've got about a 50% chance that you're going to turn over. And if you don't, you're part of the 5.7 months of inventory pile now. You're the old
Right.
news that is sitting for 6 months in the market, unless you're one of the people that, chooses to make improvements to your price. Because there's just a lot of properties that aren't drawing offers as well.
Yeah, and I'm finding the single family home market doing pretty well. The condo market, on the other hand, is not doing so well. So when we talk about properties sitting on the market, I think, do you want to look at the list to sale ratio for condos on that stat and
Yeah,
just
I mean, I
see?
can pull that up. I can tell you off the cuff, condos are down from last year 7% and almost 15 from last month. So, yeah, condos are slow. Give me a sec though. I'll pull up the sell through ratio on condos.
So units sold for condos was 209 last month, and that's up 14.8% over last month, over the month before, but it's down 7.1% over last year. So that's interesting. And single family homes have done well. Like we're up over last year 4%. So 315 single family homes sold in Greater Victoria. So, I mean, I think it's interesting how marginalized the market is. It's really dependent on what the product is. So, I here's the thing: We have a rental property that we're selling. It's a single family home, and a lot of realtors are saying to me, why would you consider selling now? I think it's a good market for single family homes.
Yeah,
What do you
things
think?
are moving. Well, people get stuck on is it a good market or a bad market a lot of the time, and they contrast it to COVID. But the problem is like that's not coming back. We have no reason to believe that we're going to see another market like that. We've taken this really big jump into a range for our market that is for a lot of people unaffordable. It's a challenging price point to accept. And we've held there, which is good because we don't want to deflate the market. But at the same time, to think that from where we are now, which is frankly, expensive housing, to have another double in price in a short period of time, it's not coming back. But properties are moving. They've held their value well. They've realistically, I mean, we're not far below where we were at the absolute peak. And people get caught up on this like, oh, like I'm going to buy at the absolute trough and I'm going to sell at the absolute peak. But that's not how it actually works out in life. So stop worrying about that. You have your investments, you have your home, and you plan to use them for the things you want to use them for. I don't see why you wouldn't sell it. And especially if it's your first, like if it's your primary residence, like live your life. Don't try to shape your life around some market that doesn't care about what's going on in your life. Live your life first. And yeah, this is a fine market to step out of.
Yeah, so the average price of a house right now is 1.282, and sorry, 1.3 is average.
Mm-hmm.
1.282 was last month. So we have gone up a little bit, just 0.1%. But the median was 1.165, which says to me that we have a large range of properties, and we have more lower price properties. I think there's more choice on the market right now than there has been in years for single family homes.
Well, you can see that just in our standing inventory. I mean, we have so many homes on the market. And I know that we started this out by saying like, oh yeah, the standing inventory came down by about 200 units, which is a win for where we are right now, all things considered. But still, I mean, we're still at numbers that are in that range of almost a decade high. So we're sitting on a lot of options for buyers who are shopping the marketplace. And the amazing thing is, if you're a seller and you're able to price your home in a position that moves it, if you price your home so that you're competitive with the other listings that are on the market, it can move. So it is a good market. It's a navigable market.
And the other thing people need to realize is it just takes one buyer. So we have to remember we talked about what is it, the four P's: price, the product,
Presentation,
presentation,
promotion.
and promotion. If we get all of those four elements together and we get the price right off the bat, then we're in good stead. I think looking at listings, being very critical of where you stand compared to other listings on the market is really important. But also, when you're moving across the market or you're moving within the same market, just understand it's all relative anyway, right?
Yeah.
So there is no good or bad market. You can't sell high and buy low in the
So
same
I
market.
want to talk about this. Absolutely. This is actually something that when I moved out here, was really careful about because I had my home in Toronto, which the market was going crazy, and I had a home I wanted to purchase here, which was also going crazy. And from where I was sitting, I was watching both of these markets, and I'm like, Toronto was a lot more volatile than our market out here. By the way, it would turn on a hairpin, and you over the course of a week, the whole market would crash. And I'd been through it several times because I'd been selling for a long time. And so I looked at it and I was like, the only way that I can really mitigate the risk of trying to do these two moves is to do them as close together as I possibly can. And I ended up managing to secure my purchase out here and finalize my sale in Toronto within a week of each other and no risk. So it was crazy, weird market that I was in, but that was my strategy. I was like, well, if I can just do this one thing, I keep myself safe. And it's exactly like you're saying out here. If you're selling and you want to get top dollar and you're buying and you're expecting to get a bargain, well, how realistic is that? Unless you're changing asset classes or you're shifting in different areas to an area that's less desirable, then maybe you'll feel a difference. But a lot of the time, what happens when people try to focus on getting a good deal is they get a lot of money off, but they buy a crappy house that no one else wants. And for me, I think you're always better to just pony up and get a better piece of real estate.
I agree. And, focus less on churning real estate, focus more on the long term of what you're going for. And I think we've talked about this before, moving into a house as opposed to a townhome. You don't
Yep.
necessarily need to play the ladder, trying to maybe like take the next step and get in as soon as you can. Interesting story though. I had a client who also sold. They actually sold in Oakville, moved here, and they took their time. And I remember on their way over, I said to them, "You better get here because I have a feeling the market's going to shift." And between when they left Ontario, they drove across, visited family, and finally came here. The price of the area that they were looking at had gone up $100,000. And so I think there were two major shifts in Victoria for housing, but I think we've maintained now. We're fairly steady. Maybe we've come down since COVID, but when I look at the price of houses over the past, we have a stat here, we look over the past 2 years, single family homes are very, very steady in terms of price. And even even if longer days on market, single family homes are relatively like it's somewhat seasonal, but they look steady. 1.3, same price as 2 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, it's boringly predictable. But I mean, what a gift, right? Like we're here. We've got war all over the world. We've got people who are losing their shirts in Toronto and Vancouver because they bought into a condo market that collapsed really badly, and here we are on our own little island, you know, pretending the rest of the world doesn't exist, and we're trucking away. I
Yeah.
often think that a big part of that. I mean, we are on an island, but that's a bit of a joke when I say that. But the other thing is, it's a marketplace that a lot of our fuel comes from people who are relocating here, and they're not doing that for work. This isn't the oil sands or something. People are coming here for lifestyle, for quality of life, and people do that in, well, I can say it firsthand. People do that in every market. It's not something that people only do when there's boom or bust, right? So that keeps us consistent.
Yeah. The condo market, on the other hand, we have a glut of condos, especially new construction, and I'm finding that that's affecting the resale value of condos. So anybody who has a condo that they maybe bought in the past 5 or 10 years, although you have a relatively new condo, you're competing against new construction now. So, and what that means is you have the amenities and you have the finishing of a new condo, and then you have like this choice, tons of choice for other condos. For resale condos, they tend to have more square footage than the newer condos, but they don't have the amenities, I find, and they don't have the finish. So,
Well, they also have the risk as well. So it's a real balancing act because you can buy a new condo, you get a smaller unit, but everything's done. And importantly, so is the building. Like there's no huge pending special levies. They're not looking at windows and balconies. They're not doing the boilers, or there's so many things that can come up in an older building that can be for every owner a 5-figure assessment, and that's a consideration. I also think with the condo market, part of what's happening is on larger units, we're seeing things act really slowly right now, and that's because the market's compressed. So we were talking about, as a buyer, if you can jump up an asset type and get to stay longer, you save a ton on all the soft costs that happen every time that you trade, and that's affecting the bigger condos that are sitting on our market right now. If you're something that's approaching $1 million, a 3/4 of a million to $1 million plus, well, people can go to the West Shore and buy a nice new home in that price range, brand
yeah.
new, townhome in like so. You people are thinking about that and they're saying, well, you know what? I'm gonna either buy a resale detached, or I'm gonna buy a brand new townhome in the West Shore, and I'm not gonna buy the condo because I can stay in that other property longer. I can grow my family, and so a lot of the reason that people were buying those before was just because those other assets were 100 or 200 or $300,000 more. They couldn't afford them, and now with the market being compressed, they've got more options.
The other thing, so I was spent the weekend looking at townhomes in the West Shore, and we had so much choice. But the other thing is that the condos and townhomes that have been around for a while, they also have more rules. So
Mm-hmm.
newer construction, first of all, they've done something smart in that they've allowed two cats or two dogs in a lot of them. The standard rules are one cat and one dog, and in older condos, they've tended to move away from pets, or they allow one, or they're just more restrictive in the rules. And so what happens is people move to the West Shore because they're able to find what they want more easily,
Yep.
and
This
also to
don't
Sydney.
underestimate this too. Like if you're moving here and planning to live in any kind of strata property, could be a townhome, could be a an older condo. If your preference is for something that's larger, um, so townhomes, condos, I would say, like, I've got a client right now with a medium sized dog, about 40 pounds. And I would say probably three-quarters of the inventory that we would be excited to look at, we can't because of some rule. You got to measure your dog in every way you can imagine: their height at the shoulder, their weight, how many pounds, how many kilos. Like, it's at the height at the withers was another one that I got recently. It's so weird. But
That's the
basically,
shoulder.
if you think about it, you've got this townhome complex, and they've had 40 years that they've had different people
No
living in the complex,
barbecues.
different people on no barbecues. So just over those 40 years, they've made up all these rules that they've come up with to restrict what you can do with the property. And yeah, it gets really tough. I met someone in I was just hanging out with these people yesterday. We were looking at a co-op building, and they were interested in this co-op. Co-ops are even more restrictive, and it's easier for them to make new rules because of the structure of the ownership. Um, but they were interested in it because they have a family member living there, and it's a nice building. And they just passed a rule that you're not allowed to exercise inside your home, and they're also contemplating adding a rule that you can't have musical instruments inside your home.
That's so funny. So one time I was selling a condo, and we were doing the tour, and then we sat down, and I said, while we're doing open houses, do you mind having that music playing? She goes, oh yeah, I'll talk to the neighbor upstairs. He was playing the piano. It was so lovely. And I was like, you can hear that from upstairs? So the older the condo, you're going to have more noise transfer. The newer condos, you're
Yep.
not. So I totally understand that.
Yeah.
It's
Also, I think construction style makes a big difference. If it's a steel and concrete building, it'll absorb more than if it's stick frame. Especially like newer stick frame buildings are going to absorb a lot because fire code has really changed the amount that they need to insulate between units. But if you're in a 1970s, 80s, 90s wood building, I mean, it's the same construction as the piano itself. It's going to reverberate, right?
Well, new construction sometimes, even though they're wood frame, they still have the layer of concrete on the top of the floor. So
It would
there's
be a good
more
idea.
sound mitigation. Yeah. So what's your
Yeah.
prediction for the rest of the year?
I've quit. I've quit predicting. It's too crazy right now because I believe that a big chunk of the reason the market is what it is right now is our friends down south. No, not our friends. Our friend down south making some interesting political choices and causing wars and stuff. And if we didn't have this uncertainty layer over everything, I think people would be a lot more back to business. I think our market would be moving a lot more steadily. And so I so far have been trying really hard. I haven't been able to predict what Trump was going to do next. I don't think anyone can predict what he's going to do next. Um, and so it's tough to say, you know, all things considered, if we didn't have all this crazy uncertain political stuff happening, I think our market would be a lot more back to business than it is right now, and people would be chewing through the standing inventory. We'd see a lot more activity. But there's just this layer of like, oh my God, what's going to happen next? And we still have people on the sidelines. Interest rates are holding, which is a good thing. We were all worried that just with the fact that oil prices have caused a lot of items to go up in price, that would be read as inflation and they'd raise interest rates to battle that. it's not impossible that that could happen still, but so far I think they're looking at it and just saying, well, interest rates aren't going to stop the fact that just everyday goods are going up in price because of cost of transport. So that's a good thing. Um, but man, I don't know what's going to happen next. I would love for us just to get, my dream is that the Canadian real estate market gets back to going up between 4 and 6% on our home price index, like our that benchmark home. That would be really nice just to give people confidence that a home is a good investment and it's a good thing to hold and take care of and all that stuff. I do think one prediction that I have is, and this is a long term prediction, I think that we're going to see a lot of our resale inventory unfortunately deteriorate in price, especially stuff that's not in the more luxurious ranges of value. So I think, the two, three, four, $5 million properties are going to continue to be lovingly maintained. And that's nice for them. But I think our middle market, unfortunately, with the cost of construction, the cost of maintenance, the fact that everything's getting more expensive, I think maintenance in general is something that people are really going to pinch their purse strings on. I think people are not going to be making those optional upgrades like, a lot of families, if you look over the past 20 years, would in their home, they'd, every year they'd chip something off. They'd do a bathroom. They'd put some new flooring down. They'd, repatch and paint. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of people are getting to the point financially where they're looking at those options and they're looking at the cost of construction now, and they're choosing not to do that. And I think that's going to continue because I don't see these things becoming more affordable.
Okay, so I think what we're going to see is an increase in inventory in product like townhomes because of
Mm.
the whole provincial move towards increasing density, especially in places like Oak Bay where you have large lots and single family homes, and now you have the potential for two or three homes per property. And it speaks to what you're saying about cost. So you're sharing the cost of building with 3 units as opposed to one. You're living more compactly, but also it's also less expensive to produce. It's also less expensive to purchase, and you're still getting the quality in the neighborhood. And I think you're going to see a fundamental change in these different communities based on that. I think that that's going to be the new market. That's going to be the big market in Greater Victoria. But overall, I'm seeing that we're steady as she goes. And if I were to look at the total active listings and the list to sale ratio, we are following the same pattern we have. It looks very steady and smooth, and we're in right now June, July, and August. We see a decline in numbers, which is just annually always a slower market. We're going to see a little bump in the fall, and then I think we'll settle down in November, December. So if you're looking for a deal, wait till November and December.
But if you see that perfect house, that's exactly what you want, and it's a very special
Yeah.
property, snatch it up. Because again, don't wait and wait for a deal and end up just getting a great deal on a crappy house. If that perfect property comes available, spend the extra little bit that you didn't really want to spend on it and get a property that when you go to sell, people are going to feel the same way about it.
The other thing is, if you can get a single family home, I would do so because you're not the average of every other unit in your complex. You are an
Yep.
individual, and you can choose to live and spend the money on what you want. So I think it's a really good focus right now.
Yes, and on that note, if you're not moving right now, find a way to keep your home maintained. Because if you're planning to move in 5 years, I do think our inventory is going to have higher levels of properties that are, not necessarily in disrepair, but that are carrying a lot of deferred maintenance. And if you can be the property that's more turnkey, has some attractive elements to it, that's that we always talk about have the X factor. If you're part of the townhome inventory, buy the townhome that has a view, get something special about your property. And you can do that too. You can buy a home that sure it needs some work, but do the work and do it nicely and give it those little extra, little extra bit of luxury, even if it's an average everyday home that makes it feel special to someone walking through it, because you'll be well rewarded if you do that and you do it right.
Yeah, we were just talking yesterday on Greater Victoria Real Estate Show about that, painting your house regularly, making sure you're looking for rot, just dealing with it before it gets out of hand, having your roof assessed regularly, have your fireplace checked out, looking at your flooring, especially. That's one thing that shows a lot of wear and tear. And even just like clean your carpet once a year.
Mm-hmm.
And just, little things like that go a long way. Anyway, I think
No
it's going to be a
kidding.
good year. I think it's going to be a good year.
Well, buckle up, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll see you in a month.
All
Thanks
right,
for watching, everyone. That was a longer one, but that was fun. I think we touched on a lot of neat stuff. I'm Sean. This is Jane. We're the Briar Hill Group. How do people get in touch with you, Jane?
Well, you can text me 250-744-0775, but I do like a good phone call every once in a while.
I
How
was
about
going to
you?
say, give me a phone call. I'm so tired of texting. You can reach me at 250-589-4166. Let's be old school and just call each other without even booking a meeting. Let's get wild. All
All
right.
right, we'll
We're
see
going to
you in
sign off.
September. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.